Quite the contrary, President Trump has taken many actions that are damaging the very research policies these were designed to protect. As Ranking Member Sykes outlined many of these destructive actions, I'll speak to what we are at risk of losing. For years now, Democrats and Republicans celebrated the fact that the United States was the chosen home of world-class talent. We took pride in the fact that nearly 80% of foreign-born STEM PhD recipients chose to remain in the United States. Since 2000, about 40% of all Nobel laureates coming from America have been foreign-born, Americans by choice.
What's going on, America? Welcome back to Right View Nation. Before we get into it, smash that like button, subscribe, and share this video everywhere. And I really want to hear from you today, so drop a comment, because what we're watching right now is exactly how the political class tries to scare you into handing them more power. All right, let's talk about what we just saw.
Thank you, Chairman Babin. And now I recognize the ranking member of the full committee for a statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before making my statement, I would like to welcome back to the committee Representative Don Beyer, who was appointed by the Democratic caucus to our remaining vacancy yesterday. He has been a terrific member of the committee in the past, and we welcome him back. I continue to hope that research security will remain a bipartisan and productive topic for this committee. We have an impressive legacy of legislation as well as oversight on research security. For years, on both sides of the aisle, we have maintained a deep understanding of and respect for the spirit of openness that animates fundamental research. Republicans and Democrats alike have taken threats to research security seriously, while understanding that in order to be the world leader in science and discovery, we must welcome international collaboration. So I don't minimize the importance of this topic. Nevertheless, I wonder why we're holding a second hearing on research security when there's no evidence that the Trump administration has implemented anything of substance on research security this year. Quite the contrary, President Trump has taken many actions that are damaging the very research policies these were designed to protect. As Ranking Member Sykes outlined many of these destructive actions, I'll speak to what we are at risk of losing. For years now, Democrats and Republicans celebrated the fact that the United States was the chosen home of world-class talent. We took pride in the fact that nearly 80% of foreign-born STEM PhD recipients chose to remain in the United States. Since 2000, about 40% of all Nobel laureates coming from America have been foreign-born, Americans by choice. An analysis from the National Foundation for American Policy found that more than half of startups valued at $1 billion or more here in the United States were started by immigrants. Now, what happens if we block or discourage foreign-born STEM talent from opportunities in the United States? Here's the answer. They'll take their know-how and entrepreneurial spirit to other countries, allies and adversaries alike. Welcoming international talent is important to advance the economic and national security of the United States. In our first hearing this session, we heard testimony from former Republican Congresswoman and former Secretary of the Air Force, Heather Wilson. She told us that the People's Republic of China is vastly overtaking the United States in several areas of emerging technologies. According to the Australian Strategic Policy Institute studies that Representative Wilson cited, China now leads in 66 of 74 emerging technologies. In the years prior to this administration, U.S. federal research funding was already stagnant at best, despite multiple reports citing China's growing advantages. We're now in the worst of times, with the Trump administration politicizing grant-making, dismantling our federal science agencies, and undermining confidence in the U.S. as a trusted partner. This isn't how you compete with China. This is how you surrender. This is not how you make America healthier. It's how you needlessly send children to the hospital with measles, pertussis, and other diseases entirely preventable with vaccines. This is not how you make America great. It's how you undermine our resilience to natural disasters, epidemics, and all manner of risks to our national security and societal well-being. And this is not how you build a scientific ecosystem that produces research worth protecting in the first place. It's how you atrophy our excellence to the point of no return. The Trump administration is responsible for implementing these disastrous policies, but Congress is complicit in its failure to exert forceful, bipartisan oversight and legislation to stop the bleeding. I support the bipartisan work that the Science Committee has done to bolster research security, and I applaud the valuable work that each of the witnesses has performed to further those goals. However, I fear that unless both Republicans and Democrats stand against the destruction of our scientific enterprise, we are ceding our leadership to China in ways that no research security policies can prevent. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
So in this clip, you've got Representative Zoe Lofgren going off about the Trump administration, claiming we're surrendering, politicizing grants, and basically dismantling federal science agencies, and that this is all going to hand the future over to China. And I'm sitting here thinking, you people have one playbook. It's always declare a crisis, blame the right, demand more federal control, more federal money, and less accountability. Call anyone who disagrees a traitor. That's the routine. This is how you surrender. That's the headline phrase. Let me translate that into plain English. If you don't fund the bureaucracy the way I want, you're surrendering. No, ma'am. That's not surrender. That's called priorities. That's called oversight. That's called stopping the permanent government from treating taxpayer money like an unlimited credit card. Because here's the question nobody in these speeches ever wants to answer. Where did all the money go already? We've been throwing mountains of cash at programs, initiatives, equity panels, stakeholder engagement, strategic roadmaps, and somehow the outcomes never match the promises. So when someone says, we need more funding or China wins, my response is, show me results. Show me transparency. Show me measurable outcomes. Not slogans. Not fear-mongering. She accuses the administration of politicizing grant-making. Okay, let's be honest. The left politicized science for years. They turned trust the science into obey the experts. And what they meant was, obey the experts who agree with the party line. And the moment a scientist questioned the narrative, suddenly they weren't following the science anymore. They were dangerous, misinformation, a threat. So forgive me if I'm not moved by lectures about politicization from the same crowd that tried to bully dissent out of the public square. Real science welcomes debate. Real science doesn't demand censorship. Real science doesn't require a political loyalty oath. Now, I'll give them this. China is a serious competitor. They're strategic, they're aggressive, and they exploit weaknesses. But here's what's wild. The same people screaming China are often the same people who supported policies that shipped our manufacturing overseas, made energy more expensive, buried businesses in regulation, and made it harder to build anything in America. You don't beat China by creating a bigger grant bureaucracy in D.C. You beat China by rebuilding American strength. Energy independence, cheap, reliable power, domestic manufacturing, secure supply chains, serious STEM education, not political indoctrination, and protecting intellectual property. Because yes, we should lead the world in technology. But we don't do it with endless committees and process. We do it with freedom plus innovation plus production. Let's talk about what this is really about. When they say federal science agencies, what they often mean is federal leverage. Because if you control the grants, you control what gets studied, who gets funded, what conclusions are acceptable, and which institutions get rewarded. That's power, not science. And the more money that flows through Washington, the more Washington gets to decide the winners and losers. And conservatives should never be ashamed to challenge that. It's not anti-science to ask questions. It's not surrender to demand accountability. It's not extremism to say the federal government shouldn't be the permanent referee of truth. Here's the Right View Nation position, simple and clear. We are pro-science. We are pro-innovation. We are pro-American leadership. We are not anti-bureaucratic capture. We are not anti-political grant-making disguised as research. We are not anti-blank check spending. If you want taxpayer dollars, you prove it's worth it with transparency, outcomes, and results. And if the system is clogged with politics, DEI gatekeeping, and ideological filtering, then yes, clean it out. Not because we hate science, but because we love the truth. What really irritates me is the emotional blackmail. If you don't support our budget priorities, you're helping China. No, that's what politicians say when they don't want scrutiny. America can lead without turning every problem into a federal spending spree. The greatest breakthroughs in our history didn't come from a culture of fear and conformity. They came from a culture of risk-taking, competition, and liberty. When you see clips like this, watch for the pattern. Do they present numbers and outcomes? Or just apocalyptic rhetoric? Do they talk about efficiency and waste? Or just more funding? Do they mention reforming broken systems? Or do they act like the only solution is bigger government? Because if the only answer they have is fund us more, you're not hearing a plan, you're hearing a power grab. All right, that's my take. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the federal research system is being used for real innovation? Or has it become another political machine that rewards the right ideology? And how do we actually beat China? With bureaucracy or with American production and freedom? If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe to Right View Nation, share this video with a friend who's tired of the fear tactics, and comment your thoughts below. You guys know I read them. Until next time, stay sharp, stay free, and stay unapologetically American.